people joining us. If people want to say a quick hello in the chat, then please do introduce yourselves. Hello, Asma. If you'd like to say where you're from, that would be lovely. We're not going to. I know that some of the breakout sessions so far, they've been inviting people to share screen. Hello, Mindy. Hello, Grace. Hello, Nicole. They've been inviting people to share their video and share their audio, but we're going to have quite a bit going on, I think, in this session. I'm hoping so anyway. So we're not going to ask you all to do that. So as I think one member of the audience said yesterday, if you want to go on your stationary bike or do something else at the same time, feel free to do so. Hello, Jacqueline from Illinois. Hello, Annette. So I'm just going to say a little bit about the Atlantic Fellows to begin with, and then hand over to some of my colleagues and to some of our fellows who are, I'm just so excited that they're joining us here today to contribute to the discussion. So if you did listen to our lightning talk, which was aired during one of the breaks yesterday, then you may have heard some of this information about who Atlantic Fellows are already, in which case apologies for that, but for those of you that haven't, it may be new. So I'm from the Atlantic Institute. My name's Abby Diamond. I'm the Learning and Evaluation Lead at the Atlantic Institute. And we're delighted to be here today to talk about, in particular, solidarity grants that were awarded to fellows in response to COVID-19. So Atlantic Fellows and the Atlantic Global Community. The Atlantic Fellows programs consist of 7 distinct values-based, outcomes-orientated fellowship programs located in 7 countries on 5 continents, with the connecting hub, the Atlantic Institute, which is where myself and my colleague Alice Wroe are from, who will be joining us to contribute to the discussion shortly. These are the 7 Atlantic Fellowship programs, and Randl and Nazir, 2 members of program staff from a couple of those programs. And we're based, as you can see, throughout the globe, focus on health equity, social and economic equity, and we are united, though, by an ambition to tackle persistent inequities throughout the globe through collective action and leadership, and want to achieve systems change. The Atlantic Fellows are a values-led community of thinkers, doers, and change makers, and our collective ambition is to accelerate the eradication of inequities, which obviously involves achieving social and societal change. At present, there are 622 Atlantic Fellows, but this will increase to the thousands over the coming years. Of these, 153 are currently on one of the 7 fellowship programs, and 469 of them have completed their fellowship programs. United in our pursuit of equity, Atlantic Fellows are leaders in their fields, and they come from all walks of life and professions. They include advocates, artists, journalists, lawyers, business professionals, health practitioners, government officials, academics, researchers, activists, and once a fellow completes one of the 7 programs, they then join the Atlantic Institute and the programs to connect with one another across programs. So they have the opportunity to access resources, architecture, networks, and we encourage them to collaborate and to engage with one another across the globe. Being an Atlantic Fellow is lifelong, and we are encouraging collaboration across borders and disciplines to address the root causes of inequity. Here's a quick slide which shows you just how globally dispersed our fellows are, and there's more information on the website. And a picture, nothing better than to be able to illustrate when we were able to come together in person, and it's been such a long time. But obviously, there's been a lot of discussion at the summit already about returning to in-person. We're hoping to be able to do that again soon, and are gradually starting to do that with regional convenings. For the most part of 2020 to 2021, of course, the world has been gripped by COVID-19. And Atlantic Fellows have pivoted from their long-term work for systems change to prioritise helping the most vulnerable in their communities. In solidarity with our fellows, the Institute offered fellows the chance to apply for short-term rapid response solidarity grants, designed to scaffold the work that would minimise the impact of the virus on endangered and vulnerable communities. From April to August 2020, a total of 74 fellows from all 7 programmes received 54 Solidarity grants, and they ranged in amounts from £500 to £5,000. The first round of grants, we distributed £267,300, with £64,000 of match funding from the Atlantic Fellows for Health Equity in Southeast Asia. A second round of Solidarity grants was then opened in May 2021 in recognition of the continuing and far-reaching impacts of COVID-19. This round of grants, capped at the same level as in 2020, was offered to fellows to make new applications, as well as those in further support of funding for existing projects. The projects that were funded were wide-ranging, and obviously they provided support for fellows to address immediate needs within their communities: face masks, face shields, the provision of information to encourage take-up of vaccination, households receiving food parcels and food supplies, but also some longer-term impact-focused projects as well, around ensuring that people were able to develop community gardens, able to develop beehives and develop an income from those sorts of things. And then other things such as ensuring immediate access to education for those who were excluded from that due to lockdowns. We have some beautiful photography and films that capture some of the work that was undertaken by fellows in that period. And we are so grateful for the fact that we have documentary photographers as Atlantic Fellows, and some incredible films have been made of their work, which are available from our website, and I will include a link in the material that I share after the breakout session too. As well as documenting the impact of this work through films and documentary photography, we've also started to explore other ways in which we can document and evaluate the impact of our fellows' work. So obviously what's summarised here is the outputs that fellows achieved, the sort of numbers of people that were trained, the textbooks that were purchased, those sorts of things. But actually, we also want to understand more about the longer term sustainable change that's been achieved, recognising that these are also quite short term projects. So balancing that. In terms of our attempts to capture the longer term impact of the work and to amplify that so that fellows can share that with their communities and more broadly, we've also been working with our Augmented and Realities lead, Rose, and I'd like to just hand over to her for a second to explain a little bit more about what we've been doing.
Thank you, Abby. Can you hear me? If I get a thumbs up, I'll know it's true. Oh, 3 thumbs up. Okay, thank you. Hello, yeah, my name is Rose, and I'm the Augmented and Virtual Realities lead here at Atlantic Institute. And for a small bit of context, as our community grows, as Abby outlined, and becomes even more global, we have placed a strategic focus on augmented and virtual reality, on thinking about how can our community be together meaningfully when we're physically apart. And so we're delighted to share a little bit of that research with you today, as we've been focusing on phone-based augmented reality. And so we've been sending quite basic green screen equipment and using fellows' mobile phones. And we've been capturing in their own homes stories and messages, sometimes live presentations through augmented reality, which is then experienced by the rest of the community using our own phones in our own spaces. So we've been experiencing, as you can see on this little image here, versions of the fellows presenting to us, talking to us in our own physical contexts. And research suggests that this heightens empathy, that a more human connection is possible, and that people pay more attention to information and ideas presented in this way. We're still working out whether we think this is true for our community or not, but we find it really exciting. So as part of today's session, we have been so lucky to work with 3 of the fellows to create these beam holograms to share with you as part of this session, where they will be invited into your own home to share their stories of impact and their solidarity grants. So this is basically just a heads up to say, get your mobile phones with you during this session, and I will be popping up at intervals throughout to guide you to experience these AR experiences that we have developed. So without further ado, I think it's back to you, Abby or Randl.
So one of the things that the fellows had focused on in terms of the different solidarity grants was mental health. And so over the next few slides and in conversation with our fellows, we're going to highlight some of the case studies that focused on maintaining well-being during the COVID-19 pandemic. The COVID-19 pandemic, as we know, has challenged us in ways that we could not have imagined. And so we know that COVID-19 not only poses a risk to our physical health, but also to our mental health. Globally, we have endured a collective trauma that feels unlike anything that we have gone through before, and it affects us all in different ways. And this includes from transitioning to the virtual work, for those of us who have the privilege of working from home, being laid off from employment, and ultimately keeping a safe physical distance from both our family and our friends, which can really have a negative impact on our mental health. And so while a number of our lifelong fellows who are our alumni have focused on reducing the spread of the virus through different public health interventions, increasing uptake by reducing hesitancy around vaccines, as well as improving vaccine equity, many of our fellows chose to specifically focus and combat the potential negative effects of COVID-19 on our collective mental health. And so over the next few slides, I'm very excited to share with you all and hear from our fellows about 5 case studies that are focused on maintaining mental well-being during the COVID-19 pandemic. And so first up, we have Kritaya, and she created 3 online platforms and 2 counseling services with her COVID Solidarity Grant. And so this website was awarded an Innovation Award from the Prime Minister of Thailand. And I won't say any more. I'll just let us go to the next slide so that we can see Kritaya in our own rooms.
Amazing. So what we're going to do together is, if you get your mobile phones, and what you're going to do is open your mobile phone up to the camera setting. So as if you're just going to take a normal photograph. And then you lift the camera up to the QR code that is on the screen now. And then it will ask you to open Safari, and it will ask you to grant some permissions. And these are one-time permissions, so do go ahead and accept them, and then follow the instructions. And make sure you have your volume up so you can hear from the wonderful fellows themselves. If for some reason you're having problems with this and the pace of this event is a bit too fast, you can always experience it in your own time at home. And we've created a little video so that you could watch it as well. So I think Abby's going to post that in the chat. But yeah, so I'm going to do it myself and leave us with a few moments to experience it together. And then we will jump back in. And rest assured, you will hear from Kritaya herself later on in the session in real life. Okay, let's have a go. Hello, everyone. I know I'll be interrupting a few of you, but most of you will have finished by now. Thank you so much for being brave and trying that. And thank you so much, Kritaya, for creating that beautiful, beautiful piece for us. So I'll hand back to you, Randl, and I'll see you all soon.
And so next, one of our fellows, Karen Diamond, her Solidarity Grant focused specifically on older adults living with dementia and family caregivers. And so one of the things that she did with her Solidarity Grant was devised and delivered Secret Country, which is a theater performance with older people, some of whom are living with cognitive impairment. And we will also have a hologram from her.
Hello, sorry, I shouldn't have said goodbye so finitely. Back again. So we're going to do the same one with Karen's hologram, but I'll just add this time, if you're feeling a bit more confident, try around with kind of pinching to make her bigger or smaller and kind of moving her around in your space to really decide where you want Karen to live in your home for these few minutes. So as a recap, open your camera, scan this QR code, click allow, click open Safari, and then when it asks you to move your phone from side to side, it's good to do that on a flat surface. If you've got a table in front of you, do move it from side to side that way. And once again, if you're having trouble right now, feel free to reach out to me after. I can help you experience this, but Abby has posted the video for this in the chat, so you can listen along that way. Okay, let's do this. What a fantastic presentation and outfit that Karen has. That was wonderful. Back to you, Randl.
All right. And so the next set of fellows that we will talk about are Ros and Kirti. And so they were also focused on mental health, but specifically for mental health support for rural health workers. And so they started the REMC project, which recognizes that there is a lot of resilience within the rural health worker population. And we need to be able to support that and really increase that. And especially as they are ensuring delivery of quality healthcare services to the poorest people in their country. And so without further ado, I'll hand it back over to Alice for the next hologram.
Brilliant. And this is our third and final hologram. And actually, this was the first hologram that we've ever created in Uganda, where Rose is based. And that was a fantastic experience, because obviously we send the green screen around the world and the fellows themselves capture this. So huge props to Rose for getting this done. So as with last time, if you open the camera on your mobile phone, if you scan it, you allow both permissions, you open Safari and find a nice flat space to swipe it across. And Abby, if you could post the video in the chat, that would be great for those of you that are unable to experience this live. But as I said, you can reach out to me afterwards. I would love to guide anyone through this who's having problems. Okay. Thank you so much, Rosemary. That was absolutely fantastic. Some of our fellows have reported feeling like they're inviting fellows into their own home and they want to clear the space for them. And I definitely feel like I have a deeper connection with these three fellows through this experience. So thanks so much for being brave and making space for this experience as part of this event. Randl, back to you.
Thank you, Alice. And for our last case study, we are going to highlight 7 fellows from the Atlantic Fellows for Health Equity program in the US, a program that Rose is also a part of. But in response to a UNICEF poll, they decided to create COVID health, like short videos that were specifically focused on children's mental health, because that UNICEF poll had revealed that 74% of children felt more worried or sad during the COVID-19 pandemic. What started as 1 or 2 videos quickly grew, and the videos reached over 200,000 different people in views through multiple different platforms. In fact, the Office of the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago even offered to place its logo on the videos in support of the Children's Mental Health Campaign. And so really what I would like to do now is just transition to hearing more directly from our fellows. So I think, Rose, if you could request to be your audio and video to be shared so we can see you with.
not sure if Rose is have you requested? I'm not sure whether Rose has requested. If you want to put in the chat. Okay, Rose. So there should be a blue button at the top above the slides, which says ask to share audio and video. If you click on that, then I think Randl will be able to, I think it will be Randl rather than myself, will be able to give you permission to do that. So whilst we're waiting for Rose to come to screen, which I'm hoping we'll be able to resolve in just a second, and we'll see Rose shortly. Kritaya, shall we start in terms of responding to, giving you the opportunity to share whatever it is that you would like to share in relation to your experience of this. We have Rose, yay! Hello. Welcome.
Thank you.
So yeah, it's over to the two of you. I think we just wanted to make sure that, given that this is an Impact Fellowship Summit, we've discussed it before, we thought that we ought to hear from some of our fellows. And so here are some questions that Randl and I considered might be pertinent. But I'd just love to be able to hand over to you to say a few words about your experience of the Solidarity Grants and where you want to take work. And you'll need to just there's a little microphone in the middle, Kritaya, at the bottom of the screen, which will have a red line to it. There we go, and that will unmute.
Okay.
And yeah.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. That was exciting to have all the other fellows in my living room on my desk. Yeah. So that was really exciting. Yeah, it's really great to be here. So what specifically would you like me to share about, Abby, or anything?
I think really we've got so there's 19. We can see there's 19 other people here. The other people that are here are representing other fellowship programs, directors of, I can see director of evaluation, different roles. And I think really it's if there's anything that you want to share about lessons that, from your perspective as a fellow, of your experience of this work and of what made you want to focus on mental health, and anything that you would share if somebody were to be setting up something similar to what we've established, so Solidarity Grants and trying to amplify the impact of fellows' work. Is there anything that you want to share in terms of lessons learned that you think they might want to take on board?
Thank you, Abby, and also thank you, Randl, for the introduction and the highlights. For me, my project is actually some would find it a bit challenging to wrap their heads around what it really is about, because I'm a networker. So my work is to network people and get people together and bridging people from the mental health professionals and volunteers, and trying to get them on board to offer services, and also try to match them with the people who might be in need at the time. And when we started the project, it was early on in the pandemic, early last year, which felt like a lifetime ago. And so I wasn't clear about what exactly would be needed. I just know that mental health would be a big issue, and it would be an issue that many people would overlook because there's other immediate needs like face masks, food, shelter, medicines, and all that. So that's why I targeted the mental health issue and tried to create platform about it. And what was really, really helpful about the Solidarity Grant was the openness and the flexibility of it. Because when I started, I really couldn't tell much about what I would be doing. I just have an idea of what I might be doing, and it's also testing out hypotheses to see if this is really what my communities would need at the time. And so what has been extremely helpful and really supportive of this Solidarity Grant is the openness and the simplicity of it. I only submitted, I think it was 1-page proposal. And also I remember the Atlantic Fellows also offered that if I don't have time during this fast moving pace of the work of the unfolding of pandemic at the time, I remember that the institute also offered support to help me write the proposal. So that was really comforting and really supportive. And all through the process, the grant has been extremely flexible, that I can
I wasn't sure if it was my Wi-Fi that's frozen then, or Kriti's. I think it's Kriti's, isn't it? Hopefully she'll be joining us again in a
frozen. Yes, but that's about it. Yeah, and can you hear me?
I can now. Yeah. Yes, you froze for a second, but I can again now. I'm fascinated by, I don't know if you've had the opportunity, Kriti, to attend any of the other sessions, but also there's so much discussion about Givitas and reciprocity circles and giving and taking. And that's actually the kind of fundamental principle of your work, brokering introductions, people who need some form of service and then people being able to access that service. So there's a lot of parallels actually between the project that you started and the discussions that are happening at the summit at the moment as well, which is just really interesting. And you've creatively used lots of different platforms in order to make that happen.
Yes, I think we're creating new ways to work together and to utilize so many resources we have across our community, across the globe.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if there are trying to keep an eye on the chat. So Nicola is asking, thank you for the work in these incredible stories. What was the filming experience like for you? And also, have you used to share these stories locally, and what was the response? I don't know. What was the filming experience? Kritaya, Rose?
It's been a lot of adventure and a lot of fun, trying to get myself on the screen, and it took me quite a dozens of time to get it, but it was interesting. Yeah, it was a lot of fun doing that filming experience. And have I used the tool to share my stories locally? Not yet, but I will be doing that a lot. I have plans to send to many people along the way. Yeah.
That's good. Yeah, we had to be quite creative. I think it's trying to send out the very most basic of equipment so that you could record them yourselves in your home. And there are moments on Zoom when wanting to be able to be there, to be able to help you to build the green screen frame but so tricky. Rose, lots of requests to change the setup and all sorts of things, but you were so patient with this, Rose, weren't you?
That was a lot of fun. Yeah, and I learned a lot how to use the green screen and everything, and it's a lot of fun to see myself on tables and on chairs, and also to see other people. I was just watching Rose, and I felt like I've met you somehow in my living room.
Rose, is there anything that you want to share about the whole experience? The solid you just started.
Sure. Thanks so much, Avi and Randl and Rroe for starting us off. And Nicole, I acknowledge you asking about how the experience was. Just like it was really fun, but as you can understand, novel concepts are challenging to work with. And so it requires a team which is patient. And so behind it all, we might be the stars you're looking at in the camera, but was always Abby and Alice who are patient with us and guiding us through it. So that was how it was. And the COVID-19 solidarity grants for us have been very responsive to the challenges that we are facing, and mental health for us came in very easy because we utilize storytelling to understand what are the emerging themes that the healthcare workers are concerned about and which are troubling them a lot. And then we co-create with them what is the response towards that. So they've worked with us actually from design of the workbooks to implementation. They're leading the organizing, and we are just working with them to say, what do you want? And acting as a bridge in that way and a resource. But more so it's them, because when we co-create together, then it's going to be much more sustainable, because then they're going to carry on even without the grant. And that has been, we have seen that because they're much more eager to even tell us, oh, this, please add this. So I suggest this, so this will work, or this won't work. And that has been amazing, inviting one of the healthcare worker leaders who's a community mobilizer into our discussion rooms to be able to for us to be able to understand what will work for them. And I think that also boils down to, because at the start of the COVID-19 pandemic rather, in Uganda, the mental health units were changed. Most of them were changed into COVID-19 treatment units. So this left no space for the community and the healthcare workers themselves to be able to access mental health services. And so what the COVID-19 grant has helped us is to co-create a space with a virtual space, and also to be able for them to access mental health support, but later on avail them with toolkits. And we hope in the future, because the way our fellowship works is they have also grants, not only for COVID-19, but also scaling up grants and sustainability grants that can be used to replicate the program across different areas, because the pandemic is still here with us. And so that is also the beauty with the our communities granting schemes, and the discussion, the ability to discuss with us openly about how we see the future for programs, even when they're just starting. So that has been amazing to see.
Thank you so much, Rose, for sharing. And I'd love to hear from both of you about what is the human impact of your work? Like, if you had to estimate how many people that you've impacted, and in what ways. So have you seen improved mental health, or do you intend that that's what you'll see as some of these projects continue?
Our project is yet to be implemented next week. But what we have seen so far is there is already a WhatsApp group community with which we are going to use to train, and it has already been formed. There are 15 healthcare workers in it. And the ability for them to see themselves that they will not only participate in our training, but they're still part of a WhatsApp community that will be able to utilize the concepts within a social media environment to be able to support their mental health is so amazing. But also what we have seen, one of our partners who's an Atlantic Fellow for Global Brain Health Equity, and that is Kitty Ranchard, who's based in South Africa, has been able to create a virtual program out of this training, and it's going to be available even after our training. So that will leave a landmark for any other person who has not been able to access this training to be able to access the training afterwards, even when they're not Ugandans, or even when they're not healthcare workers.
For me, I still find it quite challenging to have a quantitative results of how much the impact was, since it's a networking project. So there on the immediate levels are the people that we have served. So that's, I think, would be around 2,000 to 3,000 people in the first round. So this was since beginning of last year, but we are now reviving our project, and since Thailand has, I don't know what's the wave now, the fourth wave, and looking like there could be the fifth wave of COVID, of the pandemic coming. We're planning our next phase of services. But what's more impactful of the program is the networking that happens, the people who meet with each other, the organizations, and the small groups and volunteer groups that has taken on more initiative of providing mental health care for their communities. I think those would be also in the thousands of groups that has started since then. And also we still, the Facebook page and the group are still very active to this day, where there will be at least around 2 to 5 posting per day of people offering services. And then there are many people who have been matched through the platform and now are working collaboratively to provide specific mental health support for each specific communities.
That's great. Thank you both, Kritaya and Rose. And it seems like both of you are focused on, creating community and understanding how important that is for mental health, especially during the times in which we've been isolated from one another.
Absolutely, Randl. I think the most important thing is, even within communities, the people who are struggling with certain issues, and if you're not able to find a way to respond to that community, they feel isolated. They feel isolated from what would have been a joint community. So for us, it's also seeing that these COVID-19 treatment units, healthcare workers, and the mental health workers are supposed to be helping other healthcare workers and also the whole community to be able to remain resilient throughout this pandemic. But if their resilience is failing because of lack of mental health support, then it's important to first of all address their issues, because once we address them or we support them in addressing their mental health issues, then they're going to be able to support other healthcare workers and the community to be able to remain resilient throughout this pandemic.
Mm-hmm. Yes. We are seeing similar situation, like Rose mentioned, that many of the mental health professionals has been shifted to tend to the pandemic and have to forgo the care that they have been given, and so access to normal mental health care has been reduced a lot. While it's more needed than before. So we've been working a lot in trying to find alternative care. It would not be able to replace the formal mental health care, but it's kind of like a alternative supporting system to support each other in times that we have more need but more limited resources.
Yeah. I would also want to add that the beauty is that while the mental health offering, so we call it 7 Color Sundays, and it has a South African name called Imbalala. So it's a place where fellows offer fellows mental health support. They support each other. So at the end of our training, we intend to utilize the learning to also be able to support fellows in this social space. So not only is our program designed that it will also support the local community, but also to be able to utilize the offering to support fellows in addressing their mental health concerns.
I think that's really important. And I was actually just going to add that although, Rose, you'd said that your project has only just started, it has, but you obviously also completed a round 1 solidarity grant project focused on storytelling with 2 other Atlantic Fellows and generated materials from that you've then shared back with the Atlantic Fellowship community and run events. And so you're continuing to, it feels, share that learning within the fellowship community, as well as direct benefits to the communities with which you're working. I guess what we're seeking to do is to help you to do that, to try to find ways and means for you to connect with other people who are working in similar themes, but working in other areas and other contexts, and try to create the platforms and the mechanisms to do that too. So looking at ways in which we can run learning events to broker introductions to fellows who are working on similar themes like this, and hopefully there will be things sparked from it afterwards, and then also, you know, developing kind of knowledge sharing platforms as well, which is something we're working on too. So we really appreciate that you're also giving back to the fellowship community as well as your own community too.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. You know, it also comes it comes from recognizing that we as advocates also need to be mentally healthy to be able to ensure that we continue our advocacy work, our leadership work, and that ties along, I think, across this whole summit. Leaders need to continuously be supported to be able to lead, and their mental health is as important as their leadership.
I agree. I couldn't have put it any better at all, which is why I'm so glad you're here to be able to share that. I think we have just about 15 minutes left, I think, until the end of the session. Is there anything that, if anybody would like to pose any questions to any members of the team, obviously various people who have been involved in different aspects of it, or to Rose or Kritaya directly, then please do pop that in the chat, and we'd love a discussion. Yeah, we're going to be quoting Rose. Rose, Randl's quoted you in the chat already. That's going to, I think, is a lasting point. So if there is anything anybody else wants to know about the work that we're doing, I think for us, the augmented case studies is also, it was trialing. Nicole asked how the filming went. I think it was trialing. It was definitely trialing, because we haven't done this before. We're trying to articulate what the impact of these kind of pieces of work have been. And for me, learning that actually it isn't very many words, is it, Rose? 250 words really you get about that, is it? I think it's 2.5 minutes, or maybe a little bit longer. And it's so hard to how much you can communicate. And also maybe we may want to explore perhaps creating something similar, or filming as well within local communities to understand the benefit on individuals. But with projects with the focus on mental health, there's questions about both the appropriateness of that, but also learning how to do that with yourselves first, rather than trying to actually approach. We would want, you know, to be able to support you if you wanted to be able to speak to your communities and amplify any of their stories, I suppose, which I think Karen, who isn't here today, is interested potentially in doing, has expressed an interest in doing. Doesn't look like there are any questions coming up in the chat, so I don't know whether or not that's a good sign, or whether we've covered everything thoroughly, or it leaves anybody with anything that they want to ask. Yeah. Is there anything else you want to add, Kritaya? Yeah.
Yes, I just want to add that I had a lot of fun making that video. I mean, it took me much longer and many more texts than I expected, but I really felt that there are new creative way to communicate and to link with each other, and I think that's promising for mental health support as well, because generally, like before, we would believe that we have to meet in person to connect, to really empathize, to really support each other. But now with this technology, like we are in this summit together, each from our own living room or bedrooms, for that reasons, and it's so much simpler and very cost effective. And I think this augmented reality, once we learn more about how to use it, I think it's very promising about how we can reach a wider audience with mental health support, and to help people know that they're not alone. I mean, it will nothing will ever replace meeting face to face. That's my belief, but all this technology has been really, really helpful in time of this pandemic, to know that there are ways that we can connect, and I really like this experiment. Yeah, really enjoy it.
I think, Kritaya, you've hit the nail on the head when you talk about, with this sort of technology, it's not about replacing in-person gatherings, but showing there are alternatives, so that flying around the world doesn't feel like the only route to a kind of healthy and connected community. And that's definitely kind of our strategy with it. We don't want to replace, but we want to complement and offer alternatives. So yeah, love that.
Yeah, and also I have an idea about, reaching far off communities, which usually they would have to travel into the bigger town to get the services, with the basic healthcare, the physical healthcare, and also mental health care. With this kind of supports or tools, it might be possible to get therapists into their own homes quickly and very inexpensive. I think it's very, very promising, especially for mental health. Yeah.
And I think we haven't even really begun to touch, Alice, on the work that you're doing with regard to trying to make sure that our fellows have the opportunity to be on the front foot, to be able to shape this sort of technology rather than it shape us. And that you can describe that so much more articulately than I can, but I'm conscious that in relation to that, you may want to say a little bit. John's put a comment in the chat. I don't know what you want to add with regards to that, Sarah.
Yeah, if you're happy, Abby, for me to take up this space by answering that question. Yeah. So yeah, as Abby said, our strategy with this work is to not be passive recipients of new technologies, but to be kind of a community that is confident in critiquing them, rejecting them, connecting through them, creating them, or co-creating them, crucially. And so, John, in answer to your question, I don't know if you've seen the recent kind of Facebook or Meta announcements around AR, and lots of it is around phone-based AR, which is what we're exploring at the moment. And so the answer is that I believe that as we walk further into this path, firstly, we have got to become social consciences for this very inequitable industry, but also it will be getting cheaper because adoption will be getting so much more broad. As you get big players like Facebook getting behind wanting it to be kind of adopted in a wide way. So the truthful answer is that the cost of it is really varied depending on the project. So something like this was, in the grand scheme of AR things, quite cheap, in that the green screen equipment was deliberately quite basic. The fellows used their own telephones to record it. But when you talk about staff capacity, I am full-time and my role is augmented and virtual reality. So I spend the full-time amount of my job thinking about how can this work, strengthen our community and the equity work that the fellows do and that we do at the Institute. But John, or anybody else, if you would like to connect outside of this, I'm really happy to share more of our strategy and to go into more details and to share contacts that we have that work with us in this way. So the answer is it really varies depending on the project in terms of cost. But I believe as we as a society use this technology more, it will only be getting cheaper, which arguably isn't always a good thing because they'll get their money in other ways and they may well take our data as currency. So we need to watch out as it gets really cheap as well.
And in answer to the aspect of the question about does it feel like an experiment you'll continue? Yes, definitely. Yeah, we will. I think if Ros, Kirti, Karen, you'll continue it with us, then yeah, I think so. I think for me, from an evaluation perspective, it's made me realise that I almost started to feel like I needed to write up written case studies alongside it to begin with. I had to remind myself that the whole point is our principles of evaluation are not to be extractive. They are not to speak on behalf of our fellows if you can speak and share your impact stories yourself. So why would I? So this feels like a really great method to be able to do that, to enable you to be able to tell your stories of impact yourself, to share that with whoever you want to share it with. And we use video a lot, and there are some beautiful videos on our website, and I will circulate links to that. But this, as Alice has described, has the potential to heighten empathy. We could, as we explored augmented and virtual reality, potentially take people to literally experience what's happening in those communities and bring that into people's own homes, rather than me writing up an impact case study of what's happened. And so that feels so exciting as a potential.
So I just wanted to follow up with Avi, and obviously I would want to explore the opportunity to continue working on this with you guys, but this is just a story I wanted to share. It's a short story, but bear with me as I share it with you. Yeah. So yesterday I was watching my video with my father, and we live in Uganda, so it's a low middle income country. But immediately I had finished scanning and the voice was kind of like, oh, that sounds like you, Ros. And when he was seeing the environment, he was in awe of what technology has enabled him to experience and relate to the videos, rather than videos you normally see, whereby you can't relate to, maybe because of your socioeconomic status or upbringing. And I remember the quote he said at the end, he said, I can't imagine what the future holds for technology. So that was amazing to see from a man who basically has never gone out of even the African continent.
Thanks, Rose. And it warmed my heart so much to hear you say that you shared it with your father, and to describe that yesterday. It just made me feel like that's one of the reasons why we can do this. You can share it with people. And I still recall another fellow, Alice, Abraham Freeman, sharing a hologram with his local community, and I think it was a school that he was working with.
School in Liberia, where Abraham is based.
Yeah, and the stories again of joy and of being able to experience that technology, which he was arguing would not, the people that he was working with would not necessarily otherwise have had the opportunity to do. So it feels really exciting. It feels like it's got an awful lot of potential. And thank you for bearing with us on this experimental journey, Rose and Kritaya. We're so grateful.
Yeah, thank you for that, Ros. I look forward to sharing it with my father tomorrow. He's been asking me about what this metaverse thing. I've been trying to explain it, and he still couldn't wrap his head around it. And what I really like about this is the simplicity of it, like the equipment that you guys sent me. It's something that took me a while, but at the end I can put it up myself, and I guess it's not as expensive as I would have imagined it would be, and I can just use my regular phone to film it, and also use my phone to watch it. I don't need a special goggles or tools. And I think now many more people now have access to mobile phones, and I think this technology would be a good ways for people to access each other. Yeah.
I think that probably brings us about to the end. I think we've got a couple of minutes left. If there are any other questions that anybody wants to pose in the chat, then please do share them. I think, but otherwise, we will circulate the slides. There are some beautiful films of the impact of solidarity grants as well that have also been created that are available on our website. And there's a lightning talk which we created, which is more about the overall approach we're taking to try to evaluate the global impact of the work of Atlantic Fellows and the investment in it. Thank you all for joining us. Thank you for listening. Thank you, Kritaya. Thank you, Rose, for taking the time to be part of the discussion. I'm so grateful for your contributions today, and for engaging in the experimental AR work too. And yeah, so I think I'm going to draw us to a close. Thank you very much to everybody. And I think, yeah, I'll leave it there.
Thank you, guys.